Serial rate control is the control of rate or sections on a third-party controller connected to the display via a serial cable. On the XCN 1050 and XCN 750 display, this is connected through the port expansion cable on the back of the display itself. For an XCN 2050 display, you will require the additional port expansion hardware connected to the TM200. You will also require a license installed on the display for serial rate control. This license is only the ability to connect the controller and have sections automatically turn on and off based off of boundaries and coverage, as well as controlling the rate via the run screen. If you are requiring to load a variable rate prescription map and have the rate controlled based off of the map itself, you will also require the license prescriptions. Begin to create your implement. In the application device, select Serial VR as the controller. Choose the appropriate controller type or the protocol needed to establish communications to the connected device. Use the next arrow to continue the configuration. If the device is connected, the display will now retrieve information from that device. This will predetermine some of the operation types. Confirm the operation type and press the next to configure the implement. Configure the implement as described in previous videos. You will notice that the application width and rows may be self-populated as this information is retrieved from the controller itself. In the Application Control tab, select the channel you want to modify and select Modify. In the Type tab, you can name the channel and define the material type that will be used. The control type will be predefined from your selection earlier in the device type setup. Use the next arrow and assign a material if you previously have materials made. If not, this can be completed after the initial setup. Configure your implement offsets as described in the basic implement setup videos. Use the next arrow to the Settings tab. In the Settings tab, you can choose to turn on or off rate control as well as sections. This may be predefined by the type of system that you are using and the protocols selected. The number of sections and fence row nozzles, etc. will also be predefined based off the implement you are connected to. If you are connected to an implement or a device that does not populate these settings, you will need to match the settings of which are in your controller itself. Record coverage option allows the ability to specify whether you want the section status to be recorded based off the message sent to the controller or the message received from the controller. Selecting commanded states will mean that the coverage logging will be based off the timing when the message is sent to the controller. This will be used in a scenario where the controller is slow to respond in the status message being sent back to the Precision IQ, resulting in poor mapping. This setting will record the as-applied flow rate data based off the message sent from the controller itself. Reported states will record the coverage layer based on the reported states of the sections sent back from the rate controller itself. As-applied flow and status will record both the as-applied and section status based on the message sent to the controller. Use the next arrow to configure your implement's sections or section widths. Depending on the implement connected, your section widths may be self-populated. Use the next arrow to continue the configuration of your latencies and overlap. Refer to the virtual rate section control or Field IQ videos on how to set up the latencies and overlaps for your implement. The Speed tab will allow you to set a fullback speed. This is a speed that will be sent to the controller if the GPS speed is lost on the display itself. Use the next arrow to view the control summary. If all the settings are correct, use the check mark to save the settings. Configure any other channels that may be part of this implement and continue to configure your implement as described in previous videos. Before you can use your implement with serial rate control, you will need to assign a material to that channel. Once a material is assigned, you can begin to use your implement with serial rate control. If the connected controller supports rate control, you can adjust the rate from the run screen by tapping the target rate. Use the increase and decrease buttons or the rate 1 or rate 2 button to adjust your rate. Section status will be displayed and you can manually override the sections if needed. To hide the flow control window, simply double tap the guidance window or use the plus symbol in the top left corner. If latencies or overlap needs to be adjusted during operation, simply tap the Diagnostics window and adjust your latencies and overlap from here. And select Serial Rate Control. Your controller should be displayed in here with various information regarding its configuration.